All right, as we speak, the House is moving forward on continuing a resolution for government funding that would extend funding into March past the unaccountable end-of-year lame duck session of Congress. Democrats oppose this legislation because they want to set the table for another bloated end-of-year omnibus package that allows for more spending. Also, they do not want the SAFE Act, which would keep illegal aliens from voting in federal elections. Joining me now with the latest is Congressman Yearend Davidson. He serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the Select Committee on Weaponization of the Federal Government, and the Financial Services Committee. He represents the 8th Congressional District of Ohio. Congressman Davidson, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Always an honor to join you, Tony. Thanks for talking with me.
So the vote is, the debate is happening right now. Speaking to members of the leadership team earlier today, it looks like it's going to be a few votes short.
Yeah, it's not expected to pass. And of course, Democrats aren't giving, they might give some, which is a little bit of a surprise, but there won't be enough Democrats that support it. And for Republicans, we have this, kind of odd mix of people that are panicking, oh, we can't possibly risk anything. They apparently ran for Congress to keep everything going just the way that it is. And then on the other end, we've got some Republicans that unless it's perfect, they don't want to vote for it either. And no CR could ever be considered perfect, so they won't vote for anything, even if we're going to get a policy win. So that leaves us votes short. So it's a tough spot to get in because as I've been back home over, August, we spent our time back in the districts all over the country. I don't think anyone said, please keep the government going just the way it is. I think everyone said change something. And one of the big ones they're concerned about is election integrity.
Right. And this would be the measure. And of course, the House has already passed it. The Senate, like all good bills, just sits on them. They do nothing with them. But this being attached to a must-pass piece of legislation could give a little extra push to it, could it not?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to put it on something that the Senate has to deal with. They've been able to ignore the fact that we passed H.R. 2 last year to actually secure the border. And I think that's a valid question. Why not just make sure that we don't have illegals here in the first place? Then you don't have to stop them from voting because they're not here to vote. So we tried H.R. 2 for a long time. We couldn't get a vote on that from the Senate. Now we're at least saying, well, as we have an election that's going to be largely about how do we deal with the illegals that are here, let's make sure that they can't participate in this election. And as we speak, you've got states like Arizona that are found to, oops, we did it again. We've got almost 100,000 people that are not citizens that they registered to vote.
The other aspect of this is to break a cycle. We've seen this last year. Of course, we did see something different out of the House to avoid the massive omnibus that the Democrats have become so accustomed to putting Congress up to at the last minute, last few days of December. So this would push it into March. It looks like what Chuck Schumer's pushing for, Democrats are pushing for, is another year-end CR or another year-end omnibus. Do your colleagues not see that coming?
Yeah, I think no one's putting the breaking news headline out there that Congress misses another funding deadline. Frankly, there's no excuse for Congress to miss the deadline. We know it's September 30th every year. October 1st starts the new fiscal year. But if there is ever a reason to say, well, maybe we shouldn't do the deadline, it would be in a presidential year because it is going to be front and center to the election between Kamala Harris on the one hand and Donald Trump on the other, which direction we're going to go on all sorts of policies. And it makes it pretty high stakes. So I think the thing that really is fair to the country is to say, look, there are very different views. Let's put these things on the ballot and deal with them in the first 100 days. And so that's I think, a reasonable thing. Short of that, we know that Republicans, even if we do win in November, if we allow this to expire in December, which is the traditional Christmas omnibus, Republicans are going to get rolled one more time because Joe Biden going out, or then we have the risk of a shutdown that would carry on for as much as a month going into the new administration.
Well, I'll have to say, I've never been an advocate for shutdowns, but if that's the case, we come to December because of what the Democrats wanted to do in a massive spending bill, that would be the time to shut the government down at that point, if that's what they want. I want to switch gears, Congressman, to talk about today. The Fed announced a half percentage point drop in interest rates. They're now concerned that the economy might be stalled. They're citing the jobs numbers. Could this be the result? I mean, we could see the economy stall with the decrease in jobs, but could this be in part because of the dishonest reporting that we've seen by the Biden administration on job growth?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This exposes the Biden economy as complete fake news. It's been misinformation and disinformation to say the economy's strong. Households have been jumping up and down saying, pay attention to us. We can't afford anything. Debt's going through the roof. And they've looked at macroeconomists saying, no, everything's fine. Well, the average might be fine because some of the wealthiest people are flush with cash. They're in a great financial position. Because when you have lots of assets and inflation takes hold, well, the wealthy have their assets inflated. But when you have people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that are on, second and third shift jobs waiting to clock in as the Wall Street's shutting down for the day, their household income hasn't gone up. They can't even afford to buy many of the things. And so debt has really risen. Consumer debt has been. So it looks like the Fed's finally paying attention to the fundamentals in the economy. It says that they actually believe the corrected numbers and not the fake reports up front.
But this is, as you just pointed out, this has real life implications for the average American. You've got the Biden administration that has had to revise, and minor revisions are not unusual, but they've had to make significant revisions. The last time, over 800,000 jobs that they misreported that weren't there. I mean, and people are making, as the Fed being one of them, making financial decisions that affect the entire country based upon these numbers. This would suggest that this is not an administration that can be trusted.
No, they haven't proven trustworthy. And even the numbers that they were saying up front didn't get the right scrutiny. Even if they were true, it was, well, you reopened the economy after artificially keeping it closed. That's not exactly a sign of future expansion. That's just a recovery from not really just pandemic risk, but government risk, where governments mandated lots of things be closed. People knew there was a pandemic, but governments all over the world imposed limitations on supply. So when you added all that extra money into the economy, not just in America, but in a lot of places around the world, of course, it was going to create inflation. And they tried to deny that for the longest time. Now it says, yeah, we are confronting it. We're going to have to address it just to keep the economy having some sort of momentum.
Congressman Davidson, I know you're going to have to run here in just a minute. A final question I want to ask you here is, we're up in an election season. Congress is going to be here for a couple more weeks, and they're going to break and go back home. As you travel the country, back in your home state of Ohio as well, what are you hearing from voters? What is top of mind?
I mean, I think top issues are the economy, and inflation's the top of the issues in economy. Affordability might be a different way to phrase that. I can't afford the things that I used to be able to afford. There's a lot of concern about national security. And if you look at Kamala Harris, Dick Cheney endorsing her says they're definitely going to embrace the more wars in more places, the as much as it takes, as long as it takes foreign policy that has gotten into this mess under the Biden administration. And then they're concerned about our border. Every area has become a border problem. Even when you have legal refugees, you can see any community can be overwhelmed. And one of the big reasons is because of chain migration. So there's a real desire to reform those three things. Those top three issues are all at odds with what the Biden-Harris administration has done and what Democrats are promising. So I feel optimistic Republicans are going to perform very strongly in this election.
Yeah, it is a policy-driven election. Yearend Davidson, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Likewise. Thank you, Tony. God bless you and all your viewers.
Thank you.